throw him in.
I'm just asking questions. Is
I
that like a
need
normal thing
good
for you
news
guys?
here.
There he
Connor.
is.
Is that like not the most offensive introduction? To
Anyway,
the guy who
expert
lives
Connor.
and sleeps this thing.
This time of year, I hate the draft too, because now it's like we've been at least I've been keeping up with it for too long, embarrassingly long, and then you have like the national reporters that are like, hey, did you hear about this guy? And it's like a first round pick. And it's like, yeah, we know, like, it just becomes, now we're over talking about everything. And, the arguments are the same every single day for like 90 days in a row. So
it's exhausting.
I mean, it's why I have a
Greg
job.
Newsom?
So exactly. It's why I have a job. So I try not to talk down on it too much, but I understand why people have draft fatigue. I totally get it.
I feel
Okay,
like
so
I feel
I
like
don't
as
feel
we
as
go
bad
on,
now.
it's like longer and longer though. Like this process gets like worse and worse. I think it's because it's gotten to the NFL's credit. It's gotten a lot more popular and people are really into it. But what it does is now the NFL is like, now it's like April 29th. It's like, damn, this shit used to be April 22nd. Like, why are we doing this another week?
Right, exactly. You look at it and it's, it's good for someone like me that I get an extra week or two to prepare, especially in a year where there was no combine. I wasn't on the road this year, which is miserable. But on the flip side, you become, things become recycled. Like we've been talking about Mac Jones at 3 now for 2 weeks straight, it feels like. And it's what we're going to hear. Now everybody's going to start walking that back and then bringing it back forward. So there's a lot of good things with the draft, and credit to the NFL. I mean, they've made it a monster. It really is. Like people care about the draft as much as the Super Bowl almost.
It's so true. I like it way better than the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Because every team's involved. That's why.
Yeah, that's
so,
what it is. Yeah.
And like you guys said off the top, we all grew up Jets fans. I know, Brianna, you didn't. But like that was our beacon of hope. Like you looked at the draft like, oh, maybe things will be okay now. So it's the same thing over and over again every year. And there's a lot of bad franchises in the NFL, and that it brings those fans in or keeps those fans around.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because I'm a spoiled brat for the 20 out of 24 years of my life. That like the draft is just like another day, another weekend for me. I don't know.
We didn't even get to give
fun, right? When you're picking in the late 20s, because you're looking at players that are, but then I don't know. It's crazy. Now they've made it where like we care so much about round 2, 3. I mean, this is the first time I really feel like day 3. Now people are like, people know the players on day 3. Like back in the day, it was like, I'm going to learn about these guys on draft weekend. Now the common fan like knows their favorite day 3 players.
Connor, it's kind of ridiculous.
Credit to you guys and stuff though. Shows
all
like
these
what you guys do. It's great.
These mock drafts are insane though. You have fans doing 7-round mocks. Like,
well, the simulators.
Yeah. Do these people know people in the 6th and 7th round? Let's be honest. It's insanity.
It's how they find their favorite players, because they work the simulator and they see the same 5 names available to them every time they pick 186 for the Jets or whatever it is, 226. And then they go, well, I really want that guy. And after I Googled him, maybe I watched 3 games on YouTube. Like, I think the availability, this is something the NFL does not like, especially the old school NFL scouts. The transparency and the availability of, if it's not game film, broadcast film on YouTube, the fact that anybody can really turn on their computer and do this now, right? Like now, not everybody's going to be great at it, but it's completely changed the game where you have fans that can question their GM about a player they took in the 3rd round because they've watched 6 games of that player. And then a lot of the times the fans will be right. So it's, the passion is good. I'll say that. It's great. Honestly, it really is great. It just has completely changed the dynamic of being an NFL fan, and the fact that it's now 365 league, right? Yeah,
that's what it is. I know. And it allows fans also, they start, as you were saying before, they build these affinities with these players, and they even go out of their way to reach out to some of these guys on social media, and they're adding the Jets, saying to pick up this tight end in the late 7th round. And it's interesting.
Tommy
you see
Tremble.
agents are getting involved.
That's a good one.
Tommy Tremble.
Sorry.
The mock simulators too is like, just, I mean, I'm not even kidding. And I'm not saying this in like being a jerk. Like, I'll wake up sometimes, and the first thing I see when I look at my phone is somebody just tagging me and saying thoughts, and it's screenshot the mock simulator. I can't tell you how many mornings I wake up or go to bed, and that's the last first thing I see. And like, I try to answer them, but eventually there's so many times where it's like, how many times can I see Jamin Davis, who's going in the first round, be available at like pick 104. And it's just like at some point the mock simulators are it's great, but it's also creating like a false hope in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't even bother. I don't know. I just let you
don't
guys
go into mock simulator world.
I let you guys just take care of all of that stuff.
285 mock drafts later.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm good with the one that like Kuiper puts out, and then I'm all set. That's all I need for the whole season. But going into this, because of the pandemic, obviously last year was a little weird. It was the start of this whole thing. We're a year removed. No combine. How are teams handling this? How are I guess processes changing? How are people kind of just going about this, because it hasn't obviously been like this before?
Yeah, it is an interesting question, and they are really relying on area scouts that have team sources within schools, and they do that every year to an extent, because the quick summary of it is an area scout's going to go and do his visits, and he's going to go and get a body type on the player and watch him practice. And they used to go into the school and watch all his film there. I mean, now you could have a hard drive of the film wherever you want, so that's not really a thing anymore. And then you'd get a good feel for the guy. But you always hear stories of like some players turn it on that practice when they know scouts are there and it's not real. You hear crazy things, but you don't have any of that this year, right? So that's number one. That's a little different. You're relying on your area scouts knowing that coaching staff and, quite frankly, trusting that coaching staff, because not every coaching staff is going to be transparent or honest. I mean, it's hard, right, for a coach to sit there and tell someone that the player they've coached for 3 or 4, sometimes 5 years, they wouldn't want them on their team again. And unfortunately, those things happen, but it's the real part of the business that you need the relationships to get the right opinions. So that's number one. And number two is that the medical process is just a different animal this year. I think that, obviously the NFL is getting a grasp on it as we speak. I know there are NFL medical checks going involved, but it's different, right? Like I remember one year, and I forget the name of the player at the time. There was a player with a heart condition, right? And he was from Michigan. It was the interior defensive lineman. It's bothering me that I can't remember his name right now, but at this time of year, it's just I have 8 million 2021 draft picks in my head. Maurice Hurst. So for Maurice Hurst, first round talent at the time, or second round talent at the time, and you ask around teams, and I couldn't find a team that could get their doctor to clear him to play, right? And now I don't talk to every single team, but the teams that I had connections with, they're like, we can't put him on the board. Like our team doctor won't allow it, on and on and on. And obviously the Raiders felt differently, and that's how that went. But that goes to show you how varying medical opinions are, right? Like this was a player that I couldn't find a team that was comfortable at the time taking him. Those don't necessarily exist this year, where you have this unique medical assessment of the doctor doing the one-on-one test. So the medicals is a totally different animal. As much as, sure, they're still getting information. They're getting it now. We're sitting here having this conversation April 8th. The draft is in 3 weeks. Like usually they have this information from the actual physical combine at the end of February. So the process is a little bit more just quite difficult. Like we'll see teams miss on players for injury reasons that they just couldn't detect. We'll see them miss on players for character reasons that they couldn't detect. They couldn't sit down and do in-person interviews with them. Everything is on Zoom. Anybody can, and not everybody's the same person they actually are on Zoom. And those interviews are much quicker and different. So the entire process has just been, I don't want to say simplified, but it's definitely been, watered down a little bit, that you can't do as much. On the flip side of that, you're going to be drafting players more on tape, which I think is a good thing when all said and done.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And like you said, the relationship side of things and who you trust and who you get really solid info from is going to be at the forefront, and obviously tape, which is great too. And this is Connor Rogers, obviously Bleacher Report, draft expert, draft analyst, whatever you want to go by, the host of what seems like 100 podcasts at this point. So I don't even want to get into one or two, because I feel like I'd be doing somebody else a disservice. But Connor's as good as it gets, and shoot him a follow on all his social platforms. You can check out the ticker. We'll throw out his Twitter, his Instagram, his Bleacher Report page. So you're talking about relationships. Are there guys that, whether it's today, this week, last week, anybody that's sticking out to you as somebody who we should watch for, like you said, a Maurice Hurst who's going to fall or going to, be drafted earlier than a lot of us expect, whether it is because of injury or, just because someone even though there's, like you said, a million simulators, somebody we just don't expect to go this early?
Yeah, it's a great one because you look at it and, I think a lot of people are making a lot of assumptions off athletic testing at the moment as those numbers have rolled on in. And, Gregory Rousseau is someone for me that all summer we saw him talked about as this no-brainer top 15 pick. Then he opted out of the season and then obviously tested not very well considering for a defensive end or edge rusher. And then you're looking at it, and I know a lot of people in the draft community are probably thinking like, oh, man, I've seen people say he's a day 3 player. But then I've talked to NFL guys that are like, no, he's probably still a top 50 guy. So I guess it depends where you sit on the whole Gregory Rousseau thing. But I don't think not playing in the athletic testing has cost him the first 2 rounds like a lot of people are assuming. So I could see him being a second-round player still. I think the quarterback class is fascinating. There is just a whirlwind right now around Davis Mills, and I don't necessarily agree with it. I look at him and think he's a day 3 quarterback all day, but it sounds like he'll go on the second day of the draft. So those are the ones that are like day 2 interesting players. I think on day 1, the ultimate wild card for me in the entire draft is probably Jalen Phillips because, quite frankly, he is as talented as you would want from the edge rusher spot, but he had to medically retire after UCLA. He had concussions. He had really bizarre injuries or just unfortunate injuries. I think there was a lot of people behind the scenes or some scouts I talked to that were like, we don't know how much he really even wanted to continue to play football. And then he gets back, he goes to Miami, has the year off, he gets his body right, puts on a ton of muscle, a ton of weight, and just explodes in 2020 to the player everyone thought he would be when he was a 5-star recruit. And now it looks like he's back in the first round conversation. Wow. So it's like you look at him at UCLA and you see the flashes as a freshman. It's like, oh, he's going to be a top 5 pick one day. The entire career kind of tumbles down and gets built back up. So if Jalen Phillips went in the top 15, I wouldn't blink at all. I just think he's talented at a premium position. The Giants are a team that need edge rusher really badly. I don't know if he'll go 11, but it'll start there where so many teams need edge pass rushers that Jalen Phillips is this big domino. We're all waiting to see how it falls.
Are there character concerns there, Connor? Are there concerns with his character, like his love for the game, or is it just is it more of a physical thing?
I think it's medical. I really think it's medical. I think that everybody at Miami just loved him. He was a dominant force there. He worked really hard. I think UCLA was a little bit different. I think there were some questions there just about his long-term future there, and he ultimately ended up transferring, and it all worked out. So I think with Jalen Phillips, if there were character questions, it feels like they are behind him, and it's just about medical now of him being able to have a long career and being
tired of talking about, but everybody wants to. It's the quarterbacks and how you rank them. I felt like we do this on the past 3 or 4 shows, right? Right now, quickly, you can run through it because I'm sure you're going to go over it on all your shows and, the draft work that you put out in a few weeks. What's your top 5, or you can even go to 6 if you want. What's it looking like right now?
Yeah, it's been pretty static for me since December or January, where I have it that, Trevor Lawrence is number 1. That's never changed since summer. Right. And then I look at it. The riser's been Zach Wilson. He's been my QB2. Justin Fields right behind him. I think that, the crazy thing for me, guys, is I'd never have, 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the top 10 of a draft, and I have 4 in the top 10 this year. I think Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, and Lance, who, if Lance ends up having the best career out of all of them, I would not be shocked. He's my QB4, but he's still a top 10 player. Just loaded up with talent, all-world character. I really hope he goes number 3 to San Francisco, despite all the Mac Jones talk. I think he'd be a megastar with Kyle Shanahan. I really do. So I stack it like that. I think they're in their own tier too. Like Lawrence is really special. Wilson, Fields, and Lance are really, really good. And then there's a drop off. Like Mac Jones is a round 2 player for me. And he's a good prospect.
Really?
Yeah, he's a good prospect. But I just look at the athleticism and body type and arm strength and the ability to push the ball at all 3 levels. And it's just not on the same level as those other guys. It's not. And maybe it looks, good at times because he's throwing to round 1 pick Devontae Smith, round 1 pick Jalen Waddle, round 1 pick running back Najee Harris. multiple offensive linemen that'll be drafted in the top 75 picks. And you can't knock Mac Jones for that. He's playing who he's playing with, right? And he stuck it out at Alabama after not getting to start over Tua. So you give him credit there. But physically, it's just a different ball game. When things break down around Mac Jones at the next level, I don't think he has the playing out of structure ability that the other four guys possess. And it's really, it's sad he's become almost like a meme on Twitter where people are freaking out about the Niners maybe taking him at 3 because he's a solid quarterback prospect. Like, you could see, I know people laugh at this, but like it's like a weird blend, like a little Chad Pennington, a little of when Andy Dalton was actually bringing the Bengals to the playoffs, not like Andy Dalton now that people are laughing at. Like, he's a quarterback you can win games with, but is he going to elevate everyone around you and win games on his own, like Russ, like Rodgers, like Mahomes? Like, he's not that guy. He's not. And if you're taking him at 3, you traded 3 first-round picks for him, he has to be that guy. So it's a very interesting situation. And then after that, Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills. Kyle Trask, a day 2 player. Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, top of day 3 players for me. And then after that, the quarterback class is not much to write home about.
All right, Connor. I am a big Venmo bet kind of guy. So we're going to make a Venmo bet, you and I. But I can't take your money. You can only win my money. So
it's a pretty good deal for me.
All right.
I like those kind of bets.
We'll make it nice because you chose to join our show and you're a great guy. So give me the top 4 picks in this in this draft. Jaguars 1, Jets 2, Niners 3, Falcons 4. How does it go? If you get it, I will Venmo you. Nick, how much money, Nick? Nick will be Brianna, you pick the money. Go ahead.
What did you say? The top 4?
If Connor gets the top 4 right, I will Venmo him a certain amount. Don't make it over $50.
I was gonna say do $10 per pick. So if he gets them all, it's $40.
Well, I got 2 layups.
Right. Well, he already got 20. All right, fine. We'll do that. Okay, 20's in the bank. Thanks, Bree.
Yeah, I mean, we know Trevor Lawrence is going 1. We feel pretty good about Zach Wilson going number 2. I'm going to go completely away from the, consistent narrative. I still am doubting Mac Jones at 3. And if it happens, it happens. I still think they moved up to take Trey Lance. I really do. And no one's saying it. No one will say it. I don't know why. They have nothing to hide now. But Kyle Shanahan does not strike me as this guy that, and I worked with Chris Sims for a long time. I love Chris. Kyle's not going to call Chris, a month ago and say, hey, this is who I'm taking. Or Adam. I don't think Adam Schefter would necessarily know that, right? There's no reason. So I don't know. I think it's going to be Trey Lance. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If it's Mac, I think it's a mistake. But that's how I feel it'll go. I feel like Trey Lance really is a perfect landing spot there. And then I think Atlanta's going to trade number 4. And a team is going to come up and take Justin Fields or maybe Mac Jones. But for the sake of actually making a choice here, I'll say Justin Fields at 4. I think Atlanta should take a quarterback. I've heard that they are leaning towards trading that pick, and it seems like everyone else has heard the same. The question is who's actually going to pony up to come up there. The Panthers knew they couldn't make a trade with Atlanta, so they had to move on to trading for Sam. The Broncos make some sense. We'll see how aggressive they get. The Patriots make a lot of sense if they can make that climb.
My follow-up.
The Bears know that they are going to get fired if things don't go well this year. I could see the Bears giving up everything to come up to 4. So if 4 is for sale, which I believe it is, I think it will be another quarterback to one of those teams I mentioned, and it'll probably be Justin Fields.
Okay, so in reality, do you think the Pats would make a move and trade up?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for a while that you don't go out and spend all that money in free agency and plug and play all of these needs unless you want to keep your hand open to being aggressive for the draft, right? Like, you don't need all of these day 2 picks now. And I just had my sheet open. They have like 9 trillion picks this year quietly. Nobody's really talking about that. Not that, they're going to have to give up maybe a future 1 to do that. But they make a ton of sense when you look at the Patriots. They really do. I think they're a team that, they have a bizarre run of picks in the 4th round, like 120, 122, 139, but they can trade 15, 46, 96, and a 1 next year, maybe make that climb. And then you're sitting there and going, well, we don't care about our round 2 or 3 picks because we have 2 starting tight ends, a starting wide receiver, an edge rusher. Like, we feel like we can win now and develop our quarterback of the future.
Interesting. Okay. And last Patriots question, then we can just get back to the draft. What do you think is more likely to happen? They actually do trade up for a quarterback, or they get one Jimmy Garoppolo back?
Oh, I think a trade up. I think
really? Okay.
Yeah, I think the Niners should keep Jimmy. I think that you never want to. Now, I'm sure Jimmy's not thrilled, although he'll say the otherwise. But here it goes back to what I believe, and I wouldn't want to just draft Mac Jones and throw him on the field right away with no other solution. Like whether you draft Trey Lance, whether you draft Justin Fields, whether you draft Mac Jones, you like having the option of Jimmy starting the season and letting those guys, even if it's for a couple weeks, right? And then you go to the rookie. We've seen that work well in the past where you're not just throwing him out there. You're not going to go back to Jimmy, right? So I think when you look at it, I think Jimmy stays, and maybe that changes draft weekend. I think it makes more sense too for New England to really take a swing. Go up and get one of these talented guys. Don't go back. I know Belichick, he loves Jimmy, loves him. But I just think, it doesn't matter right now. You got to go up and be aggressive.
I agree. All right, this Pat's talk is making me nauseous.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I just had to get it out there.
Jeez, Brie,
we all know why we're
Sorry.
here. We know who's going to be listening. It's the Jet fan base.
Sorry.
They're salivating about building around Zach Wilson at this point. Who are some names that you're hearing, whether it is, let's forget about Wilson. Let's forget about the top tier of talent. Are there any guys that whether it's you've heard about it or somebody, a few names that you think they should go after? Who are some guys that Jet fans, and you could even throw some Giant fans in there too, we'll stay local. Who are some guys, after round one that you're hearing or you think these two teams should go after?
Yeah, I think the Jets are doing their homework on what this running back class looks like on day two. And that's not a surprise, right? We think that, we feel, at least I've talked to people that feel pretty comfortable Najee Harris will go in round one, no matter how much don't take a running back round one conversation happens. You have the Dolphins, you have the Steelers. There's a lot of landing spots for him. So assuming that it's Najee and then ETN goes in the top 45 picks, I don't think the Jets can afford to take a running back with one of those top three picks. It's just not something they can afford to do. They have too many needs. And then you get into the conversation of, okay, well, do your homework on who's there on round three. Kenny Gainwell, Michael Carter. Those are the two that make a lot of sense to me, at least, because they might not be, like a Najee or an ETN that's going to get the ball 25 times a game. You're going to committee them with the running backs you have on the roster, but you feel like they can contribute pretty well. So I think you're going to hear a lot of buzz around the Jets and names like Kenny Gainwell, Michael Carter. I personally think Chuba Hubbard makes a lot of sense. I know everybody's soured on him. I like Chuba Hubbard a lot once he's healthy. And that, I think Javonte Williams goes too early. I know people love him. I love him. I think he'll be gone by the time the Jets start considering running back. So I think that makes a lot of sense for them. And then they're going to be, I would think that they're going to have to be all over this corner class or offensive line class at 34, no matter what they do at 23. They're going to have to see who falls down the board, right? Alex Leatherwood is somebody that makes a lot of sense to me. He's played guard. He's played tackle. Will Newsom's injuries cost him round one, and he's sitting there at 34. Newsom's a great fit. Melifonwu from Syracuse is a really nice scheme fit. Maybe you can get him at 66, although I don't know if he makes it that long. So they're doing their homework on the areas that they did not go after in free agency, which is you could sit there and go, maybe that's, questionable business. Everybody knows what you're doing, but there's so many names in the draft that it doesn't matter. So the Jets are obviously doing all their homework on running back, offensive line, and corner. That's no secret. It wouldn't shock me if they take another edge. When you look at the Giants, they have really made a concerted effort to build around Daniel Jones, and I don't think it's over yet. I know everybody's excited over the Galladay signing. I think when you look at it, though, they're not done. They have a couple of receivers that we know can play. They have Saquon coming back. They still have holes at guard. And I said on the Bleacher Report show today, I look at Trey Smith in round 3 and just think he's a perfect fit. They lost Kevin Zeitler. They need to do something at guard. They need edge pass rush help. Like I said, Jalen Phillips talk probably starts at 11, although I could see them waiting a little bit longer on edge and seeing what blue chip player falls to them at 11, whether that's a Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, someone like that. The point is that the Giants are not done aiding Daniel Jones in a significant way.
Yeah, Connor, just popping in the film and looking at some of these prospects, I found myself just thinking, this draft class is amazing. I mean, it seems like there's 6 or 7 tackles that could end up becoming starters in this league. You look at the wide receivers speak for themselves. You have this quarterback class. I mean, based on all the research you've done with this class, would you say, where would you rank this class? Would you agree with me and say this is one of the best you've ever scouted?
In a lot of areas, yes. It starts with the wide receivers. Last year's was great. This one is probably better, honestly. Jamar Chase would be the best receiver in last year's class. I think I would take Jalen Waddle over any of those guys last year. CeeDee Lamb would be in the mix, but that's about it for me. And it's deep. I mean, I'm looking at the board I have right now. I got through 30, 32, 33 wide receivers this year that are all draftable.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. Like that's just
insane.
It's ridiculous.
That's maybe never happened ever.
No, exactly. And sure, somebody will probably get the short end of the stick and not hear their name called. But if any of those guys got picked, they absolutely earned being a draft pick. When you look at tackle, it's a great point. There's just so many players that can go in the top 100 that can develop into starters. You know about Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, Christian Darrisaw. I think Alex Leatherwood can play tackle. Some people want him at guard. Tevin Jenkins can play tackle and do it at a high level. That's the one that makes so much sense at 23 for the Jets. I'm just not convinced he gets there.
Me too.
Eichenberg, I think Mayfield's a guard. No, I just can't see Douglas being that kind of guy to surrender picks.
No?
The one thing I'll say is,
I don't think you would, Nick.
The thing that has me kind of raising an eye is, did they accept a 2022 second and fourth rounder, knowing that they'll use that as trade chips this year instead?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The only thing I will say is, and this is kind of evil, there's a part of me that wonders, like, are the Panthers going to be any good? Do you want to move that second round pick? What if it's a top 40 pick next year? So maybe the fourth rounder is what they look to move. So yeah, I'm with you, Nick. I would move up for Tevin Jenkins. It's a plug and play upgrade. He could be your long-term right tackle. You can play him at guard right away. It's just a loaded offensive line and wide receiver class across the board.
All right. Well, I asked these guys this earlier. So obviously we have to ask you, who is your biggest sleeper in this draft? Because like I said earlier, I feel like we're really just talking about the quarterbacks and everybody else is just getting tossed to the wayside. So who do you have?
I feel like I have to change this answer like every other week because like Twitter just blows up a new prospect every week and they still haven't gotten this guy. So my late day 3 sleeper is Antonio Nunn, the wide receiver from Buffalo. They just don't throw the ball. And I feel bad for him because he's a stud. He really is. He's a good player. Great concentration and body control. Very tough before the catch. You can't press him at the line of scrimmage. He catches things in traffic. He's a tough player. Jarrett Patterson's gotten all the love out of that Buffalo program, and that's okay. He deserves it. He deserves to be drafted. But if you're looking for that 6th round wide receiver that just he's really, really good, honestly. I was blown away by how good the film is when they actually throw the guy the ball. None would be my guy all day. I don't see why he can't be a long-term number 3 or number 4 at the NFL. That you just see how sticky his hands are, and he's got late hands.
He looks good.
He's got
looks
late
a little bit
hands.
like Crowder. Crowder game.
Yeah, he's a smaller, more compact build. Really, really good acceleration, and DBs that try to run with him. They even when they cover him, he's got such late hands that it doesn't matter. So he's a good player. I really hope he gets drafted because I think he'll be one of the better day 3 wide receivers that just no one is talking about.
The Patriots should look into him since Edelman's not playing this year, so he'd be perfect in the slot for them.
Please relax with that.
Sorry.
Please.
All right, do we?
Nobody said he wasn't playing.
Yeah, I thought I heard otherwise. He's going to try and play at least a little bit, but
that's the rumor. That's the rumor.
We've had Connor here for a long time. Again, obviously, Connor Rogers, Bleacher Report draft expert. I call him. Even if they don't call you that, I call you that, Connor.
I appreciate
even if I text it to you on the side.
I appreciate it.
Do we have Splash or Bree? Do we have any fan app or chat questions lined up? If you haven't entered yours, enter yours right now quickly. We can throw them up, and then we'll let Connor run out of here. I know he's got to run, so we'll throw a few up there. And Dan's got the first one. That's actually a pretty good one. Who do you see making a head-scratching move in the same vein of Chicago going up 2 picks for Trubisky?
I mean, we might have already seen it. If Mac Jones goes 3, it's not that he's a bad – like, he's not Trubisky.
I know.
Right? He's not
I know
a bad
what you
player.
mean.
But it's hard to sit here and say trade 3 first-rounders for Mac Jones. The talk of Jamin Davis being a top 20 pick, he's a nice player, not a first-round player.
Over JOK, too? Like,
it's nuts.
Is that going to happen?
It sounds like it. It's really nuts. So those are the ones that, to me, like it's hard to draft off-ball linebackers in round 1. They got to be really good cover guys or do something special. So those are the 2 for me that I'm like, oh, man. Like, what is Dallas going to do at 10? Are they going to shock us, or are they just going to take the best player? That's the one I have my eyes on.
You think there's any shot Dallas moves up for Pitts?
It's a good one. With Jerry sitting there, you never know. I just think that I feel like the Bengals will take Chase. And then I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I think that Pitt's falling to 10 just wouldn't shock me. Like,
really?
Everybody's turned Pitts into this they've turned Pitts into like the Myles Garrett prospect, like the non-quarterback that's just too good to not take. And like I love him, but I don't like. I think Jamar Chase is a better prospect. I don't know. I think Penny Sewell's a better prospect. Like the hype has gotten a little crazy where like I want people to be prepared for him to not be a top 4 or 5 pick in this draft.
Yeah,
we had people on the show saying that he was the best prospect in this draft all around,
better than Trevor
quarterbacks
Lawrence.
Included.
Wow. I mean,
Somebody said that. It wasn't
like,
me.
He's got great hands. He's a good athlete. He's huge. He's a tight end. Like he should not be a bust. There's no, but do you think he's Rob Gronkowski or Travis Kelce? That's what I asked Adam Lefko today on the show.
A breed. Yeah.
Exactly. Those guys change your run game, and Kyle Pitts does not do that.
He's not going to do that at all. Yeah.
So I just wonder how valuable that tight end is at the next level. In the right offense, he could be a killer, a great player. But I don't know. I just think people really need to be prepared for a tight end not going in the top 5.
And that's my worry with a guy like Pitts. It's like, let's say he does go to Miami for whatever reason, and he goes, and you're expecting, number 6 overall stats and like numbers that like Jamar Chase could put up, and he's a tight end, and you have to limit your expectations. What if he goes out and he has 500 yards and 6 touchdowns? Is that going to be just because of playing the tight end position? Is that going to be worth a number 6 overall pick? Like that's what I always find myself doing, like struggling with that.
We were saying it on last week's show. He doesn't move like a tight end. Sometimes these tight ends, when they're that quick and fast, sometimes they don't find their spots on the field. They're playing more like a wide receiver than they are a tight end. So it's interesting to see like where Pitts, but he's a freak, as you know.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, he could take something underneath and take it for 6. So, all right, this kid's posted 1 million times. We're gonna get your question, Connor. Do you see this question? This kid's obsessed with this guy. Is that your brother?
Yeah. Thoughts on Firemouth to the Jets? Not crazy. I mean, listen, he's a really good pass catcher, really good seam target. He's a good effort blocker. He's not like this, George Kittle kind of going to throw you in the ground. But yeah, exactly. Tremble's a great blocker. Like he's got good feet where he can get to his spots, and you're going to be asked to do that in a wide zone rushing attack. So he's a nice player. It's a good fit. The question is, you're probably not getting him at 66. Are you willing to take him at 34? Yeah, I just don't think the Jets can do that.
I agree.
We got any app questions loaded for Connor before?
I think Splash said we got them.
By the way, Connor, someone gave me love on your headshot and said you need a headshot like Connor. What are you doing with yourself?
I can't even. It was a random picture when I was down at Auburn. And I just use it for everything now because I'm like, well, thank you. I feel bad. I don't even know who took it. I'm just like, well, now I don't have to get like one of those goofy headshots where I dress up and stand in front of like a white wall and I like turn and smile. I don't have to do that anymore. So I'm very thankful for it.
I think you got the best background in the game too. I know that's is this your like Zoom /
This is my home office now. There's no going to work anymore. So I needed something that works. And it's been a nice luxury, man. When the pandemic started, I was in my old place and I was doing shows out of my room and I was like, I can't do this. Like I cannot wake up and sit where I work all day. You get to the point where you lose your. I am very much looking forward to going back into a studio.
Yeah. Are you for Bleacher Report? Are you doing a studio set for the draft?
So we will be down in Atlanta this year. Where they do all the big, all the big NBA on TNT shows. Yeah. We'll have a lot of space. I'm looking forward to being back on a desk talking to humans face to face.
Very nice. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. All right, so we have some questions here. Let's see what we got. Question 1. I'm going to ask you this, Connor. Why is the uSTADIUM app better than the Bleacher Report app?
Damn,
that's question. What's up with that?
You guys are going to get me in trouble. I can't speak on that. Let's just say they're both.
No, you guys have a lot more users than us.
They're very good app, man. But if I say the wrong thing on the Bleacher Report app, they are relaxed. I think the uSTADIUM has a nice jet score. Where if I speak about something else on the BR app, but they'll come after me. So I got to watch myself a little bit more.
Fair.
What's another? What do we got down here?
How will Sam Darnold do in Carolina? How do you think? We were speaking about that before. What are your thoughts there?
I think he'll never take the step into being the guy people thought he would be, and that's a top 8 quarterback. I don't think those days will ever come for Sam. He just doesn't see the field well enough and just doesn't process that, and the deep ball isn't great. But can he be average? I think he can get there in a very quarterback-friendly offense with Joe Brady. I mean, he can do a lot of things they're going to ask, a lot of timing, a lot of rolling out, getting him on the move. My question is, like, everybody is just killing Teddy Bridgewater, saying they needed this upgrade. I am not sure that Sam is this lock as this huge upgrade over Teddy. So I think the turnovers will be, a bigger problem, but there might be more bigger plays. So I don't see it, guys. I know it's tough. And I think Sam can be an average quarterback that has a long NFL career, but there were times where people were comparing him to Andrew Luck or whoever you want. It's just not. I don't see it.
Nick, why are you shaking your head? You were comparing him to Andrew
Luck. No, because I never compared him to Andrew Luck. I had him. I loved him, and I still do.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, the Jets did him dirty. Like it's
they did.
You could argue that we'll never know.
One. Yeah, they gave him no support out there.
I was shaking my head almost as like a disappointment for how this ended and turned out. Like nobody likes to see. You don't want to see what happened to him. Like, yes, of course he takes blame for how it turned out, but like, man, I feel that he just didn't have a chance here. So it was just like like you said, they did him so dirty, and you hate to see just Adam Gase come in 2 years and just completely tear down a guy's career. Like I expect his career is over as like a starting quarterback, like a top level guy. I don't see it ever happening, and that's crazy to think after how excited we were in 2018 for this guy. So it's just like, it's bittersweet to see it, but like credit, I thought Douglas did a great job to get what he did from Carolina. And, I hope he goes on and does well with, I'm a big fan of Joe Brady's, but I just don't, I don't see it happening either. But,
well, it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like if Sam goes out and has even a middle of the pack season, right? And everybody starts seeing more flashes and the turnovers go down. I mean, Joe Brady's getting a head coaching job.
Yep.
So then it's like, will Sam still look like that without him? And who knows? But it's just very fascinating how Carolina will play out these next 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're all in agreement. We mentioned that before, right? You're hitching your wagon to Sam Darnold. It's kind of a risky move for Joe Brady.
And Matt Rule has a 6-year deal. He's the only guy that could have done it. He really is. If the Broncos did it and it doesn't work, Fangio's fired. Washington was interesting. I think they had a little bit more runway, but they obviously bowed out. Chicago, I thought whatever they do, they have to be right or they're fired. So like that, I would probably take the swing with Sam than Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, but each their own.
Doesn't it feel like there's Nagy's got it? There's no winning for him this year. Like, I think he's gone regardless. He just feels like that lame duck situation.
It's a tough division to be in, right? Like, Green Bay is a powerhouse right now. The Lions are going to compete. They're not going to be good, but they're at least going to go out and try to give you a hard time.
They'll sneak out a few crazy wins.
They'll play for that coach. Yeah. I don't think Goff is as terrible as everyone else says. I don't know if Detroit's a great spot for him, but and then the Vikings got a lot of injuries.
They'll be good this year, I think.
Right? They'll bounce back.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
going to win at least 8 games.
The Bears are going to be picked to finish third in that division. And like you said, Nick, that's not good enough for that coaching staff.
Because he made the playoffs last year, and there was still, if he almost got fired again. Still.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Interesting. All right, well, Connor, we'll let you run. We appreciate that. We'll connect after the draft, whether we do something on the app or we have you on again to kind of recap it. But let everybody know where they can check you. I didn't want to, with the podcast thing, I want you to sign off on your own and throw out where and when people can check you out.
Yeah, of course. I mean, with all the Jet stuff, I do it on the Badlands show, but draft-wise, it's all Bleacher Report. We're going to be live all 3 days, Bleacher Report app, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you really want to watch the show. So I'm biased. I think it's better than the TV coverage. As someone growing up watching the TV coverage, I think we're just it's more about the players and the picks. And we have, I can't announce it yet, but we have a pretty great lineup for who will be working with me this year on the desk. And I think it'll really, really excite people when they see, some new faces as analysts with the draft. So that's really what my mind is on right now. I'm really excited to get down to Atlanta and do the show for all 3 days.
Awesome. Well, dude, I'm happy for you. You've earned it. Like, you're crushing it out there. love reading your stuff, love listening to you on the pod. So keep it up. We'll always be checking in. We'll always be reading and sharing your stuff. So keep it up, man. We'll be looking forward to watching you on the draft.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you having me.
Of course,
man, Connor. Thanks for coming on, man.
See you, buddy.
See you later.
Connor's the man.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
He said exactly what we said about Sam Darnold.
A few times, too.
A to Z. He literally regurgitated exactly what we said. I mean, it was it's not something, I mean, as a Jets fan, you don't want Sam Darnold to not reach his potential. I want him to go to Carolina and kill it. It's just, I don't know.